I have now officially visited all 30 Major League Baseball stadiums, so I figured it was a perfect time to sit down and rank all of them from worst to best. To start, we need a little criteria for how I'm going to be grading these parks. I'm taking pretty much everything into account here for a game day experience, from when you first arrive to a ballpark to when you're leaving. So things like the neighborhood, the looks of the ballpark inside and out, the overall vibe of hanging out there, and then extra things too, like food, different activities, stuff like that. One thing I didn't weigh too heavy is the fan atmosphere. A lot of these places I only went one time, and I don't want to fully judge a place off of one game. So the fans will be considered, but maybe a little bit less of the equation. Now, obviously doing something like this is super subjective, so feel free to leave a comment below, share your thoughts on how you think my list looks. And on your way there, feel free to drop a like and subscribe, it really helps my channel. All right, without further ado, let's get into the list. At number 30 and kicking off our needs to go tier, I have Sutter Health Park, home of the Athletics. I don't think this one comes as much of a surprise. It is a minor league ballpark. I don't want to dive fully into the situation with the Athletics, but it really is such a shame what those fans are going through. In terms of a minor league ballpark, Sutter Health is just fine, if not good. I love the outfield berm seating. I think that's really awesome and unique. But outside of that, there's really just nothing. There are a lot of concession stands, but they all just sell the same thing. The team store is super small. There's really nothing there. It's just crazy to me that the Athletics are going to be playing here for 2 more seasons after this one. It's number 30 by default, but we'll have to see where the new Las Vegas ballpark will end up on this list. At number 29 and rounding out the needs to go tier is Tropicana Field. I know the Rays are playing at George M. Steinbrenner Field this year, but that's just temporary, so I wanted to rate it based on Tropicana. I will say I really did enjoy my visit to Tropicana Field. It's so unique compared to other ballparks, so if you just don't take it too seriously and try to have a good time, you're going to have a good time. The Ray tank is a super cool touch. I think I was hanging out there for like over 30 minutes. It was a blast. Obviously, playing inside of a fixed dome is no fun, especially when that dome is the same color as the baseball, and the atmosphere here is pretty consistently subpar in terms of major league standards. I had a good time there, but I think we can all agree this deserves to be number 29. At number 28, in the lone member of the boring tier for me, is Rate Field, home of the Chicago White Sox. I really feel like this is the current day version of those cookie cutter donut shaped stadiums from back in the day. Besides those pinwheels above the scoreboard, there's really nothing unique or interesting at all about this place. And it starts from the beginning. The entire thing is surrounded by parking lots. Tailgating could be fun if that's something you're into, but I much prefer downtown ballparks. The food in here is pretty decent. That's one plus I would give to this place. But overall, not much to do outside, not much to see when you're exploring inside. I'm just really not a fan. At number 27, and the first entry in our cavernous domes tier, is Chase Field, home of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Of all the ballparks with a retractable roof, this one is the most soulless to me. Walking around this place, it feels way too big for the crowds the Diamondbacks are drawing on a nightly basis. The AC is also the worst of any of the domes that I've visited. It was pretty hot in there, especially the higher up you go in the upper deck. The one saving grace it does have is that pool out in right center. I feel like that's one of the coolest ballpark features there is, and it's right at the top of my bucket list to watch a game from there. At number 26, I have American Family Field, home of the Milwaukee Brewers. I think the one thing that's really holding this place back is where it's located. It's another one of those ballparks in a sea of parking lots pretty far away from the downtown area. Now, I know tailgating is a staple for Brewers fans, and it did look pretty fun when I was there, but only being able to get to the stadium by car is a big letdown for me. The food is pretty good here. They offer some fun Midwest staples, and the overall design of this place is super unique. No other ballpark has a roof like they do, being able to open it like a fan. And the slide is pretty cool, another one of those things that's on my bucket list. But again, it's another one of those domes that just feels a little bit too big for the team that's playing in it. At number 25, I have Daikin Park, formerly Minute Maid Park, home of the Houston Astros. This place is so unique compared to the rest of the league, and I especially love the train up in left field. I think that's an awesome feature. I love seeing this ballpark with the roof open, but it seems like the Astros almost never do that, and I feel like it's taking away a little bit from this place. This place doesn't quite feel as cavernous as some of the other domes, and the Astros fans do a really good job of filling it. It's another one of those domes that can get pretty warm on those hotter days too, so just keep that in mind. This place and Chase Field, the Diamondback Stadium, are very similar, and I think the fans are what gives this place the slight edge, but overall it is pretty dated, and I feel like it could use some improvements. At number 24, and closing out the cavernous domes tier, is Rogers Center, home of the Toronto Blue Jays. I originally had this place lower on my list, but they've done some awesome renovations over the last couple years. They've really turned it from kind of a soulless donut cookie cutter type stadium into a ballpark. I really love what they've done with the outfield, and the hotel high above center field remains one of the coolest features in any major league ballpark. Again, another thing that's on my bucket list to check out. Seeing the CN Tower with the roof open is awesome too. I just wish we had more of that. I'd love to see a more open concept for this place, especially with how cool Toronto's skyline is. But it does seem like the Blue Jays plan to stay here for the long haul, so I can't see it really ever getting higher than 24th, to be honest. The next tier I have is standard ballparks. We're getting to the point in these rankings where there's really nothing wrong with these places, but the ballparks ahead of them are just better in some way. At number 23, I have Angel Stadium, home of the Los Angeles Angels. This place is the 4th oldest ballpark in Major League Baseball, and it does show that age a little bit. It's undergone a lot of renovations, and I do like where they landed. I think the view view of the outfield is awesome, and I especially love that rock waterfall feature. Other than that though, like I said, pretty standard. Being so old, some of the sight lines aren't great, especially closer to those foul poles, so just keep that in mind if you're going here. It's also another one of those ballparks that's in a sea of parking lots and not in a cool downtown area. Getting in and out wasn't bad at all, but I'd just like to see some more things happening around the ballpark. Overall, this place is fine, does the job. At 22, I have Progressive Field, home of the Cleveland Guardians. This is another place that's undergone some renovations over the last few years, but I'm not sure how much they really added to the experience. Seems like they put a lot of emphasis on those social gathering type areas. That's cool for some people, but it really doesn't move the needle much for me. It is downtown, which I like, and it offers some pretty cool skyline views, but overall, there's really just nothing notable about this ballpark. It's just about as standard as a ballpark you can get, in my opinion. At number 21, I have Comerica Park, home of the Detroit Tigers. Comerica is very similar to Progressive Field in the fact that both of them are downtown, and there's not really too much going on to separate it into that elite group of ballparks. One thing that I absolutely love here is the Tiger branding that you can find all throughout the stadium. They did such an awesome job of incorporating that into every inch of this place. I really don't have much else to say about this place. I just think it's a compliment to the ones ahead of it that it's down this low. At number 20, I have Nationals Park, home of the Washington Nationals. I'm not sure if this place can be considered a downtown ballpark, but it is super close to the National Mall and all of those cool DC landmarks. I really wish this place had a better outfield view of some of those landmarks. I think it could really push it over the top. But at the end of the day, it's a pretty standard major league ballpark and it does its job. One thing I really love, especially in the springtime, is the cherry blossom trees out in left field. I was lucky enough to go to a game when they were in bloom, and there's really nothing else like it in Major League Baseball. This is a solid stadium, solid food, solid overall experience. At number 19, and closing out the standard ballparks tier, is Great American Ballpark, home of the Cincinnati Reds. Yet another pretty standard downtown ballpark here, but there are a couple reasons why it's at the top of this tier and not the bottom. For one, being right on the water is awesome. I wish they would have incorporated that into the views a little bit more. Also, this place has a Hall of Fame and museum that's miles ahead of any that I've ever seen in Major League Baseball. The one game I went to was really lackluster in terms of atmosphere. I'm not going to hold that against them too much. I've seen how electric this place can be on opening day and things like that, so it's not really fair for me to judge a rainy Tuesday in April. Overall though, great park, can't wait to see it full again. At number 18, and the first entry into our New Age Domes tier, is Globe Life Field, home of the Texas Rangers. Globe Life is the newest ballpark in Major League Baseball, opening in 2020, and while I see a lot of people compare it to the other dome stadium in Texas, I feel like this one is so much nicer. Walking around this place, it's really unique compared to some of the other retractable roof stadiums, and I feel like it's pretty easy to get lost, which I actually kind of enjoy for a ballpark. The air conditioning here is maybe the best that I've ever felt for a retractable roof stadium, and obviously being in Texas, that's a huge plus. My only real knock on this place is its location. It's in Arlington, which is a bit of a far ways from Dallas. It's not like there's nothing to do in this area, but I think a Dallas stadium would have been just a little bit cooler. Overall though, I love the vibe in this place, and I think it's really underrated by a lot of people. At number 17, and closing out the New Age Domes tier, is Lone Depot Park, home of the Miami Marlins. This is another ballpark that I think is really slept on by a lot of people. To be fair, I have seen it at its absolute best. I went to the semifinals and championship of the World Baseball Classic there, and it was absolutely electric. Even for a regular Marlins game though, I feel like this place does a great job of embracing the city of Miami with the music, the food, and that awesome window in left field where you can see the entire Miami skyline. I really miss having that home run sculpture inside the ballpark. I know a lot of people hate it, but I absolutely love that thing. It is still outside, which is a positive, but I really wish that was back in left field. You'll notice this right away if you visit this ballpark. It's a weirdly residential area. There's not much at all going on outside, so that is a knock on the place, but once you get on the property, inside and out, it's such an awesome experience. At number 16, and kicking off our elite vibes tier, we have Kauffman Stadium, home of the Kansas City Royals. I'm gonna get my one negative out of the way now. This place is absolutely in the middle of nowhere. It's in a sea of parking lots that they share with the Kansas City Chiefs Stadium, which means there's really not anything going on around this place, and you have to get there by car. Once you get inside the stadium though, this place is super cool. It is on the older side, but they've worked wonders with some of the renovations over the years. I think the most notable one is the fountains in left and right field. That's one of those cool, unique touches that makes Major League ballparks the best stadiums in the world, in my opinion. Speaking of that outfield area, there's so many fun things to do and see out there. A lot of places for the kids to play, a lot of really cool concession stands, stuff like that. And to cap that off, you're going to be very hard pressed to find a bad seat in this building. There's great sight lines, a very pretty overall ballpark design. If this place was in a downtown location, it might be one of the best in the entire league. At number 15, I have Citi Field, home of the New York Mets. This is one of those ballparks that I could see shooting up the list if things go right in terms of renovations, but for right now I have it at 15th. The one reason I do have it this low is the surrounding area. Being in New York City, I feel like there are so many cool locations this place could be in, but instead it's surrounded by parking lots and rundown muffler shops. There are plans in place for a huge development all around this ballpark, so we'll have to see where it ends up in these rankings. In terms of looks, this place is phenomenal inside inside and out though. That main entryway, the Jackie Robinson Rotunda, is absolutely beautiful. I love the nods to Ebbets Field in the design. And the inside is pretty awesome too. I love the Shea Bridge. I love the home run apple in center field. And not to mention, this place has arguably the best food selection in all of Major League Baseball. With my content, that is a huge plus for me, and it seems like they're always adding cool and unique things, so I love that. At number 14, I have Citizens Bank Park, home of the Philadelphia Phillies. It's kind of been a theme for me for a lot of the lower half ballparks, but this is another one completely surrounded by parking lots. There is the really cool view of the Philadelphia skyline in the distance past center field, but I'd much prefer to have a little bit more going on outside the ballpark. Inside the ballpark though is an entirely different story, as Phillies fans make such an incredible vibe on a game day. The overall design of the ballpark is super fun. I love the boardwalk type feel in the center field concourse with all the food and activities and stuff like that. This place is just really good looking too, especially some of the views from the upper deck. Again, at the end of the day, the location is really my only complaint. This has always been an awesome place to watch a game though. At number 13, I have T-Mobile Park, home of the Seattle Mariners. If you haven't noticed, this is the lone retractable roof stadium that slipped this high into the ranking. And I think a big reason for that is the Mariners almost always have the roof open. The roof that they do have doesn't enclose the entire stadium. It acts more like an umbrella. And I think for any retractable roof stadiums in the future, that should be the model. This stadium's also in a pretty cool location in Seattle, and Seattle's one of the absolute best places to spend time in the summer. The weather is absolutely perfect. I was also pretty impressed with the food selection as well, and overall I really have no complaints at all about this place. I think we're at the point in my rankings now that I think everything is really good. Now it's just those little extra details that can bring a ballpark to the top. At number 12, I have Target Field, home of the Minnesota Twins. This ballpark is built on the smallest piece of land of any of the 30 ballparks, and you do notice that when you're there, but it creates this really cool intimate type of feeling. It is one of the newer ballparks in the league, and the design that I went with is just absolutely beautiful. That stone that you see in the left field corner is all around this place, inside and out, and it just provides a really good looking touch that a lot of ballparks don't have. It's in a downtown location with some really cool skyline views, and that flat open area in right field provides a really cool way to check it out. There is one extra thing about this place that I wanted to mention too. Obviously, Minnesota can get pretty cold in the fall and spring, and the team combats that by having space heaters hanging from the ceiling all around the concourse. I went to a couple games here in April, and that was such a pleasant surprise. At number 11, I have Coors Field, home of the Colorado Rockies. This place is just absolutely gorgeous, and I especially love all the trees, rocks, and water features out in the center field area. Being able to walk around down there and check everything out is definitely on my bucket list. Being able to see the Rocky Mountains from certain angles here is super cool, and one thing that can't be understated is how many awesome sunsets this place gets. Seems like every night in the summer we have a gorgeous sunset pic from Coors Field, and I absolutely love it. Having that one row of purple seats in the upper deck exactly 1 mile above sea level is a really nice little touch. And while it didn't weigh too heavily into my rankings, that elevation and the field dimensions provides so much offense, which I feel like I love seeing anytime I go to a game in person. At number 10, and rounding out our elite vibes tier, is Truist Park, home of the Atlanta Braves. Truist is one of the newest ballparks in Major League Baseball, and I think what really carries this place is the Battery neighborhood that fully surrounds the ballpark. The vibes out here before a game are absolutely electric, and there's so many stores and restaurants and that kind of thing to check out before or after a game. On the inside, the Braves did a really nice job embracing their history. If you check out the concourse behind home plate, they have a beautiful area called Monument Garden, which is basically a team museum, and you can even check out the World Series trophies and rings. Historical things like World Series trophies are off limits to fans for a lot of ballparks, so anybody being able to see it out in the open here is awesome. Overall, fantastic vibes and atmosphere at this place. I love it. At number 9, and the first stadium in our Light Shine Brighter tier, is Yankee Stadium, home of the New York Yankees. While Yankee Stadium doesn't have the history of the old ballpark, walking into this place still feels just a little bit different than the rest of the league's ballparks. They did a really good job of channeling their history into this place as best as they could. Monument Park out behind the center field wall is really awesome, and you definitely have to check that out if you go to a game. Just make sure that's the very first thing you do when you get to the ballpark, because they do close it during the game. They also have a small museum on the second level where you can check out the World Series trophies and some pretty cool artifacts. You would think a team with a storied history like the Yankees would have a bigger place for that, like the Reds do with their museum, but it is nice that any fan can go check it out if they want. The area that Yankee Stadium isn't fantastic. There are a couple bars across the street, and it is very accessible by the subway, but I think that's one place that this stadium is lacking in just a little bit. I also hear a lot that the new Yankee Stadium has such a corporate vibe, and I can see what people are saying, but I really don't agree with it. This place always seems like it's packed, and the fans are really into the game. I'd say more so than most other ballparks in the league. Overall, this place is incredible, and it really just feels like every single game here is a big game. At number 8, and the second and final ballpark I have in the Light Shine Brighter tier, is Dodger Stadium, home of the Los Angeles Dodgers. This is another one of those stadiums where it might not be the best in the league, but every game here feels like such a big game. It's the third oldest ballpark in Major League Baseball, but I feel like they've done a great job renovating it, and this place really has stood the test of time. It looks beautiful. I especially love the work they've done to the outfield concourse area. All kinds of cool spots to get food, hang out, take photos. I will say my one time here was a playoff game, and the fans really weren't as loud or into it as I expected they would be. While the games here do have a big time feel to them, the atmosphere is a little bit lacking compared to other places. It's also another one of those ballparks that's completely surrounded by parking lots to the point where it's barely even walkable in the slightest. But otherwise, the location right in Hollywood is pretty cool. I think the one thing that pushes Dodger Stadium slightly above Yankee Stadium in my opinion is the weather and the views. Again, this place is absolutely gorgeous. Your backdrop is palm trees and Chavez Ravine, where at Yankee Stadium it's just apartment buildings. And you go to a game here, you know you're going to get good weather, which is always a plus. All right, we're really getting close to the top now, and this one might come as a surprise to people, but at number 7 and the lone member of the aging gracefully tier, we have Fenway Park, home of the Boston Red Sox. I know I'm probably going to get a lot of pushback on this one, as a lot of people have Fenway Park right at the top of their rankings, but I feel like my reasonings for having it 7 are valid. Obviously, this place is so historic. Everywhere you turn here, it feels like you got brought back in time in the best way possible. The green monster, the triangle, pesky pole, those old wooden seats, everything here is super cool as a baseball nerd, but I think one thing that really doesn't get talked about much with this place is it can be really uncomfortable. I know it's definitely a fair trade-off when a place is so iconic and historic, but I think some slight renovations to clean this place up are much needed. One other complaint I have is this is probably the worst stadium in the entire league for food. The options here are very limited, and they don't have a bunch of cool and unique options that a lot of other ballparks do. Negatives aside, I absolutely love watching games here. It's the ballpark I've been to the most out of all 30, so I think just being here so much has made me realize some of the flaws that this place has. With some renovations to make it the perfect mix between historic and comfortable, this place could easily be number 1, but for right now, I think I'm just gonna have to keep it at number 7. At number 6, and kicking off our modern gold standard tier, is Oriole Park at Camden Yards, home of the Baltimore Orioles. This is the ballpark that really set the standard for the retro modern look that so many ballparks are modeled after today. It is a bit on the older side for ballparks, but it has aged like a fine wine. Watching a game here is so cool. It's downtown, got some awesome views, and the warehouse as a backdrop in right field is incredible. It also has arguably the best food in all of Major League Baseball, with a focus on a lot of mid-Atlantic staple foods. I really appreciate a ballpark bringing that local flair. My one singular complaint about this ballpark is that the concourse is not open like a lot of the newer places today, so you are missing the action if you're going to get food or use the bathroom. But overall, I just love this place so much. It's such a fun place to watch a game. At number 5, I have Busch Stadium, home of the St. Louis Cardinals. This place is in a great location, right in downtown St. Louis, and within the skyline, the Gateway Arch being part of the backdrop here is incredible. The one thing I kept thinking walking around this place is it's on the newer side, but it seems like it takes inspiration from some of the best older stadiums like Fenway and Wrigley. This place is not symmetrical or cookie cutter in the slightest, and I feel like you can really get lost in this ballpark in the best way possible. The Cardinals have also done a great job implementing their team history and branding. Seems like everywhere you turn, there's a little cardinal sitting on top of a sign or something like that. I just love features like that in a ballpark. We're starting to get to the point where the difference between these ballparks is so small, so I really just have nothing bad at all to say about this place. It rocks. At number 4, I have Petco Park, home of the San Diego Padres. This will continue to be a theme for these top couple ballparks. Petco is right downtown with an incredible skyline view in the outfield. I think the thing I love most about this place is implementing the Western Metal Supply Company building as the left field foul pole. They have the team store in the bottom and suites in there, and you can walk through it just doing a normal lap around the concourse. It's such a unique design implementing the city's history into the ballpark design. I absolutely love it. This place reminded me a lot of Busch Stadium, but the open air California vibes just take it a slight step ahead. The concourse is all open air, and I'd go as far as to say it's the best concourse in all of Major League Baseball. There's a super cool fountain feature at the main entrance, cool vine-like plants hanging down. There's also the massive patio-like social area out behind center field. They have an entire stage there for bands to play pregame. They have the grass burn for people to lay down and watch the game. The vibes all over this place on the game day are just absolutely perfect. This place also obviously has the benefit of being in San Diego, which has some of the best weather in the entire country, which is always going to be a plus going to a baseball game. At number 3, I have Oracle Park, home of the San Francisco Giants. If you want to talk about vibes at a ballpark, this place is absolutely off the charts. I think the first thing that everybody notices about this place is that it's right on the water. McCovey Cove is right beyond right field, and then the San Francisco Bay is all around the outfield. Those views with the palm trees and a nice sunset is so hard to beat. The food options here are also incredible, very diverse, and the overall design of this place is just incredible. The outside's beautiful, the inside's beautiful, and when you pair it with the vibes that being on the water gives off, I could see why a lot of people have this as number 1. At number 2, I have PNC Park, home of the Pittsburgh Pirates. PNC provides the single best backdrop in all all of Major League Baseball. You have the beautiful Pittsburgh skyline with the Allegheny River in front of it and the Roberto Clemente Bridge crossing it. That view alone would be enough to get this ballpark pretty high, but the ballpark itself is super nice. It's definitely a very intimate feeling ballpark. The upper deck is a lot closer to the field than it is at most stadiums. Just about every seat here has a killer view. Food at this place is also incredible, and being right across the bridge from downtown is a huge plus. Deciding between PNC Park and Oracle Park for number 2 was the biggest internal debate I had when making these rankings. The margins between them are just so minuscule, and I think it really just comes down to personal preference. I think for me, I just prefer a skyline view over open water, but it really is a 2A, 2B situation here. Can't go wrong with either. And finally, at number 1, and the lone member of the perfect mixed tier, is Wrigley Field, home of the Chicago Cubs. I was saying before that Fenway Park could use some renovations to become the perfect mix between historic and comfortable, and Wrigley Field is exactly that. They've done some awesome work recently renovating this place so that it still has its historic and old school charm, but it's a lot more comfortable for fans in the seats and in the concourse. Obviously, it still has a few of the drawbacks of a vintage stadium, like the poles blocking the views from seats and stuff like that, but I think the team did a phenomenal job at retaining all the historical elements and basically enhancing them in a way. The traditions at this ballpark are unmatched. Singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," the "Go Cubs Go," raising the W flag, the ivy in the outfield, left field bleachers versus right field bleachers, all of that stuff is just so iconic, and in a sport that relies so heavily on their traditions, there really isn't a place any better. I haven't even begun to mention Wrigleyville yet. It's the best neighborhood for any major league ballpark. With how incredible the game day experience is here, it feels like every single game has that excitement level of opening day. Overall, just everything about this place is so charming. I feel like going to a game here is as pure and awesome of an experience as you could possibly have as a baseball fan. Okay, so that is it. We went from 30 all the way down to 1. I put a ton of time and thought into these. If you guys watched this far into the video, I really appreciate it. I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say about my rankings. Make sure to drop those in the comments, and feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you want some cool, unique baseball content. That's all I got for now. Appreciate you guys for watching. Peace.